Welcome to another episode of the All Pop No Culture podcast. I'm your host again this week, Kevin. We had a guest this week, Jen. She's a friend of, well, literally everybody else but me, since they all went to school together. But she's a lot of fun to have on. It was her first time, so we kind of eased her into it. We talked about The Swearing Jar, which is a movie that I caught. It's over on Stars right now. We talked about The Bear, which she has actually seen, so that got Jen into the conversation. Then we kind of handed off the reins a little bit to Andrew and Jen and let them talk about You People on Netflix with Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill. I came back, I talked about Donnie Darko real quick, and then I think Andrew talked about Velma and what makes that show such a stinker. And then we got into The Last of Us for a good little while, talking about the second episode of that. And then we kind of devolved into some tangents there at the end, which were a lot of fun. We finally got to really let our hair down and relax a little and just kind of shoot the shit. We talked about Avatar and a few other things. So have a listen or a watch, since this is YouTube. We hope you enjoy the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, set up notifications. We found out that when I say to share the episode, people were a little confused. So if you're on Facebook and you see the episode on Facebook, please, by all means, just share it with your friends and enjoy and have a great week. And we hope you enjoy the episode. So we don't bother with intros anymore, but so. Yeah, we've got a new face this week. We got Jen here this week, friend of everybody but me, because I don't have any friends. It's not her fault. But you went to school with pretty much everybody that's ever been on our show. Well, at least in the last year.
2.0.
Yeah. And before the show, Andrew pointed out the irony, or I don't know if it's irony, but just the fact that we're all the class of 95 and all from high schools geographically close to each other, even though at the moment we are not geographically close at all.
No.
But yeah, so we're all Bay Area high school kids. And funny enough, I didn't know any of you in high school. I only met Pete in college. And actually I met Andy in college, which I didn't know before he was on it. Didn't realize, but we did a musical together when we were like 22. And then, we did it in 2000. So 2023. And yeah, so it's weird how the world brings people together, right? Like, have no business knowing each other, and here we are. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of junk. Specifically, at the end of the show, we'll get into The Last of Us again, because I can't help myself. Jen, you haven't been on long enough to know, but my love for this goes back a long ways. Like, I've harassed everybody about playing the game for years, and of course nobody has, and so it was going to be a movie, and then that fell through, and then finally they did this, and so I'm super excited to I feel like I'm the one sharing with the world, and I have nothing to do with it. Like, I haven't obviously written on the show, I haven't showed up on the show, I don't have a dollar in the game, but like I watch the world taking the show in, and it's very personal for me. So I'm excited to talk about it when we get to it.
And it dropped on your birthday. Don't forget
it did drop on my birthday. Like, literally, other than my daughter, I guess, is the greatest birthday present I've ever gotten. My daughter was born on my 20th birthday. Yeah. So it's the second best thing to ever happen on my birthday. And I'm not even the second best thing to happen on my birthday. So it's pretty cool. So we'll get to that, but we've all watched some stuff. I think I'll throw a couple out real quick, just so, and then we'll get to you guys with because you have some shared stuff. But real quick, since I'm so passionate about The Last of Us, I'll talk about the other thing that I'm passionate about this week, which is a little Canadian film called The Swearing Jar. It's written by Kate Hewlett, who is the sister of David Hewlett, who is an actor. He's been around all kinds of stuff. Most notably Stargate, but lots of other stuff in the past few years he's been popping up in. But she wrote this play and then turned it into a movie, and it's very touching, like romantic drama, which isn't something that I'm usually on board for just picking up and watching in a room all by myself. I tend to like my comedies and my action movies and my horror movies. Those are like kind of my go-tos. And while this movie is certainly not a comedy, I'm going to see if I can find it and slip it into the edit, but
you're an asshole, an asshat, an ass-blowing shit-mind, a cunt, yes, a cunt, the U.S., not U.K. kind, a dipshit, a tit brain, a dim motherfucker, a camel-toe chest, a cold-stunted fist sucker. Happy birthday, baby.
There's an opening theme song where she just drops a bunch of dirty words and says some terrible things, but it's hilarious. So the main actress is the main character of the story. And number one, she has a beautiful, like simple singing voice, like, so super pretty. But the show kind of runs, it opens up and she's playing guitar, or she's singing. She's got a guitarist on stage for a 40th birthday party. And it's her husband's 40th birthday party. And as the movie goes on, she finds out she's pregnant, tells her husband she's pregnant. They get all excited about it. And then there's this side story where you see her away from her husband. She bumps into this guy at a bookstore, and they start to have a relationship. So you have these conflicting relationships. And what's a huge bummer is, like, there's some really cool stuff in the story that I don't want to tell anybody about in case they go watch it. So while I am super stoked about the movie, I don't want to give anything away. But it's about, I want to say it was about 2 hours, so it wasn't crazy long. The acting was solid. It's a really small cast. I've seen the other actors, and I haven't seen her before, the main actress, but I've seen the other actors before, though not in a whole lot. But everybody plays their part really well. It's really, like I said, really tightly made. Of course, now that it's, midnight, I can't remember anybody's name. Romancing the Stone, Kathleen Turner. There we go.
In there.
Kathleen Turner's in it, and her part's small, but she's really good. Like, she's his mother, so she's the girl's mother-in-law, and she's a little jaded, and she's, obviously she's older. Like, she's not the same girl she was in Romancing the Stone a million years ago. But like, she's really good in it, and she's probably like the biggest name, but she does a great job with not necessarily a lot of material, and so I really, really enjoyed it. I think if you have a significant other, it's a great one to sit down and watch with somebody, because it has its sad moments. It's got a couple little gut punches there, and it goes through some relationship stuff, but it's not a Hallmark movie, right? Like, it's not everything's happy at the end and everything's great. So I really I liked the drama of it. I liked the little plot twist of it, and I thought it was really good. So I definitely, if you have the time, it's playing on Stars right now, at least if you live in the US. I don't know what it's playing on in Canada or anywhere else. You can rent it on Amazon or Apple or whatever. But it's really good. So I definitely recommend watching that. Another thing that I started watching this week that I'm not done with, but is called The Bear on Hulu. It's with the kid from Shameless. Yeah, he's great. And as a matter of fact, everybody in it is really good. I really dig the cast. And one thing that's really cool about it is, I think I was telling Andrew before we started recording, that I worked in restaurants for a long time. And I worked in wine country for a little while. So I worked in fine dining, and I worked at Red Robin. Like, I've worked in the smaller places too. And there's this cool thing in the story where he's coming back to this family run restaurant, that's never had a real like chef, but he worked at Noma, which is it's the best restaurant in the world, just is the best restaurant in the world. And so he comes back and starts trying to run this restaurant. And so it's like this clash of cultures, even though he's from the area, Chicago. But it's this clash of cultures where he's trying to elevate everything, bring everything up to being better than it was, while not necessarily just throwing out a brand new menu and just changing everything. He's trying to take the things that they do and make them better. And so he's butting heads with these, downtown Chicago, cooks. They're not chefs, they're cooks, right? And so it's really fun to see the way that I know that cooks and line cooks and chefs and stuff in smaller restaurants communicate with each other versus how they communicate with each other in real restaurants. And if you watch the menu, the way that they all communicate with each other in the menu is so militaristic that it's kind of an exaggeration, but it's not far off from how fine dining restaurants talk to each other. It's yes chef, no chef. It's always, it's like the military. But everybody, that's the other thing too, is everybody's chef. So, you're talking to, yes chef, no chef. But it's good. It's really good. And it's certainly a drama, like for sure. The episodes aren't as long. They're only about 30 to 40 minutes. It was an FX show. But if you watch it on Hulu, it's unedited. So you get some fun, dirty words and stuff because we're grown-ups and we like those things. But it's really good. I'm only about halfway through, so I can't speak to how it ends or what's coming next. But it was really good. So
I saw it too. I liked it.
Oh, have you seen it?
Uh-huh.
That's a question I should be asking, is if people have watched the show. Did you watch the whole thing?
I did. So I first started it, and it was like one of those things that I don't think I was in the right mindset when I was first watching it, because I felt like the first 2 episodes were like a lot of screaming and yelling. Mm-hmm. And it was like really intense. And I was like, oh, okay. It was kind of like stressing me out, and I just couldn't handle it then. So I stopped it. But then I kept hearing people saying how good it was. And I don't know, I'm so bad with actors' names, but Lip, I'll call him Lip.
Yeah.
From Shameless.
Exactly.
I like him a lot. I loved Shameless. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try again. And I really put my all into watching it, and I loved it. So it does have a great ending that you'll probably enjoy. And
does it seem like it's being set up for more seasons? I haven't checked to see if it's been renewed or not.
No, it's been a little while since I watched. I'm trying to remember exactly if it could carry on. I mean, I think it could. I know I'd watch it definitely if they did. I liked it, but yeah, I thought that was funny when you said they're cooks, not chefs, but then the whole time they're calling each other chef. Yes, chef, yes, chef.
Yeah, like he comes back and he's the one that starts ingraining that into them like right away.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to see, because the one thing I can say about it, like, is it does feel really realistic. Like it's nothing about it is grounded in silliness. Like it's not like there's a couple of characters that are at least a little bit caricatures, like his cousin, who is the only person in the show that I've seen and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like the super asshole. So he's almost like the caricature of an asshole, but and then you have the kind of maintenance guy that's always around, the heavy set guy.
Yeah.
It's a little grungy. He's hilarious and he's so funny. And then, everybody else kind of knows their lane and they're pretty solid. But what impressed me a lot too is because I don't think it's a particularly long season, but in like a day and a half, I've gotten to episode 5. Mm-hmm. But the characters are good. Like you understand who they are, you care about them, and where they're from. Oh, and the other big name in it is Oliver Platt. Oliver Platt plays like he's not related to them necessarily, but he's almost like an uncle, but he's also a Chicago kind of, I don't know, mob boss probably isn't the right word, but he's a loan shark and involved in that stuff. So yeah, it's good. It is good. And so I'm excited to finish it. If I keep going the way I am, I'll finish it probably tomorrow. I started watching it because I finished Hacks on HBO finally. which that ended in a weird place. That was a good show. And they totally ended it like it could just be done. I'm hoping it's not. It's fantastic. I hope it comes back. And actually, the other show I watched, The Flight Attendant, that I finished this week, also kind of ended in a funky spot. Like if they don't do a season 3, they end it in a good spot. And I almost, for that one, I almost hope they don't do a season 3, because it kind of ended right where it probably should. Have you either of you watched The Flight Attendant at all?
I saw the first season, and then I don't remember why I stopped, but it has been one that I've been wanting to go back to. I need to start from the beginning again.
Yeah, it took me a long time to go back to it too, and I think the first season Kaylee Cuoco got a lot of buzz because she did a good job, but I didn't feel like she was necessarily award worthy in season 1. I thought she was good, but this season I actually think she was. Like she was really good in this season. So even though she didn't win, I think this year I think the nominations are appropriate. She did some really good work in this one. It's because it's such a weird premise. Like if you can't buy into the weird like fantasy land in her head where you got multiple Kayleys running around, it's a little hard to buy into and get into. And maybe that's why it took me a little while to start the second season.
Yeah.
But it works once it gets going, especially in the second season. It really works, and it works really well. But I have not shut up. So you people watched You People. So regale me with stories of You People, because I want to know all about it.
All right. So I guess I'll start, and then, you can jump in, wherever you feel like, or you can give your take. So, I'll just start by saying that, like, it's cool, like kind of what you were saying, Jen, earlier. It's cool when you can see people kind of like make a comeback. And I feel like Eddie Murphy is kind of like one of those goats. Like back in like the 80s, he was definitely like the man. I feel like Dave Chappelle's kind of taken his place in terms of like being like the heavyweight. But now I think that Eddie Murphy is taking his victory lap for his career. Beverly Hills Cop 4 is coming out soon. He just finished shooting that. And he talked about how I'm like in my 60s. Like, don't get me. Like, if you wouldn't ask Morgan Freeman to do it, don't ask me to do it. But like, he's still Axel Foley. He's running around doing his thing. That said, You People is like his, kind of his first like big film since like the Coming to America. But anyway, I'm going to park that over there. And what drew me to the film was the fact that it does take like what I would say is a very, it's a radioactive topic. Like racism is definitely, it's radioactive. And I think that if you're going to deal with it, okay, you need to be like trained. You got to get your hazmat suit, metaphorically speaking, and you don't want to like just drop the rod anywhere, because it could cause some like fallout and toxic whatever. So that said, I think overall it was well done, very well done. I'll start with my reservations, and I'll just this is more of a PSA, but I'll just like say it. Like me personally, like I am not a fan of the N-word, like in any context, right? And I feel like while the Eddie's family was using it because they were trying to, I guess, be authentic to like that milieu or whatever, I just don't think it was necessary. So I feel like that was my only kind of like, gripe. But beyond that, then everything else was, I think was fine. Definitely a love letter to LA. The whole time I felt like this is definitely like, this is the LA like environment. All the music was like, DJ Quick, Nipsey Hussle, all that stuff was very LA. You get Jonah Hill obviously being the kind of main, the male protagonist of the film. And, he's very authentic. There's always been a close relationship between Jewish youth and actually the hip hop scene. I mean, the Beastie Boys are a very good example. So that's just not, that's very real. Then you've got Lauren London, who actually was the partner of Nipsey Hussle. I did not know that. So as soon as this movie was done, I went and read up about her, and that was very like authentic. And they meet in a very kind of funny way, and they form a real relationship. She's all about authenticity. He's all about, I just want to be in love. I want a real connection. They make it happen. But the funny part though is that his family is very kind of they got money, they're in the hills, they're kind of removed, they're in their own bubble. David Duchovny, I haven't really seen him in anything. I know he was in the X-Files. I thought he was hilarious. He had this like obsession with Exhibit. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just perfect. And I'll just leave that at that for now, unless Jen wants to say anything about that. But anyway, so she was perfect. She was just, she knocked it out of the park. And yeah, I'll just start with that because I feel like I'm talking a lot now. But so we're gonna go back and forth. We're gonna like tag team this. So I'm passing the microphone.
I mean, I think you did probably a better job at explaining it than I'm going to. But I mean, I did really enjoy it. Like I said, I'm terrible at remembering the names of the characters and things like that. I need to start taking notes. But yeah, Jonah Hill was, I mean, I really enjoyed him. I thought he was great. You know, I liked his interaction between him and his friend when they were doing their podcast. And
yes, they do a podcast.
Yeah, they had a great dynamic between the two of them. And yeah, I mean, it was really good. I felt like, you know, it touched on some heavy subjects, but I felt like in the end, it was really, you know, it's hard to not give things away, but it was really balanced for me. I mean, you know, they would throw some things in there to kind of bring up about racism and whatnot, but I mean, I don't know. I felt like it was balanced. It wasn't like one side proving their point and the other side completely proving their point and, you know, drive it in. I really thought that, I don't know. I just thought it was well done in that sense from a balanced perspective of,
absolutely,
that touchy subject, you know.
Like I love the dinner table scene where they're kind of like talking about like just like I think I'm not gonna give it away, but someone said, did you just compare like Holocaust and slavery? And so I was watching actually the writer and director of the film. His name's Kenya Barris. This is his first feature film. He worked on Blackish, so this is like his first feature film, and he talked about like the oppression Olympics. So he, you know, obviously the idea of like who had it worse, but that scene was done so well, and like you said, it was so balanced. And there were definitely parts of the film where it was like, oh my god, like this is so bleak, but here's the also cool like background part of it, right? So Lauren London, okay, she's mixed. Like her dad is actually Ashkenazi Jew in real life, and her mom's African American. So even though they play their part so convincingly, like as in terms of like being kind of divisive, no. And then Eddie, of course, his partner is white, she's blonde, but in the movie you'd never guess that because he was definitely about that life. Like he was like, I'm not trying to have you marry my daughter. And you know, I'm not the biggest fan of romantic comedies, okay? Because I feel like they're super formulaic, okay? That said, even though that this was formulaic, like it definitely, like, you know, like by the end, like it's going to work out. Like there were parts where I was like, damn, like this doesn't look good. Like this, like, what are you trying to say? Like, I think that, you know, is this an uplifting thing, or is this going to be like, no, like, dude, like we're never going to fix this shit. Like, you know, the only way this is going to happen is if we get together and like leave our families, because as long as the families are there, like there's always going to be drama. But, you know, the way it ended, honestly, it left a smile on my face. The whole time I was thinking to myself, like, okay, this is a bit corny and like a little, it's like trying too hard in places. But then by the end, I was like, you know what? We needed this. Like, and I actually believed like the change of heart that happened. And I loved like the collaboration that took place, you know, between the parties that needed to collaborate. You see, I'm being vague, so I'm not going to give it away. The collaboration of the parties that needed to collaborate, because I bought it. And I actually almost felt like that camaraderie, because just so that you guys know, like Eddie and Julia were on SNL together, like back in the early 80s. So they go back a long way. So it's like, so it's cool to see like these comedy legends get together, do this film. You know, Jonah's that dude. So if you want to, oh, one more thing I'll say as well, like I feel old now because all the music, like I didn't get it. Like I know there were like references to musical things that I didn't get, you know, but I know that, you know, maybe your kids will get it, but like I'm too old, I don't get it, you know. But yeah, it just, we needed this. Like we needed this I think just to show people like this is what's really out there. There are like differences in worldview. Maybe you want to like dial it back in terms of trying to be an advocate. And Jen, you brought this up actually, speaking for other people, because that scene like at the doctor's office was hilarious because she's like, oh my God, did you see what happened? And then when you actually see what happened, she's like, okay, let's just go outside. Like we said, like, because it was mortifying, like what just happened. Like I stopped, like you're doing too much. And then as far as like, the dad, like when the uncle like talk sense to him while they're driving, like that was just also a real moment. So overall, yeah, dude, like I think minus the N-word, like I think you people was a triumph. So good for you, Kenya Barris. Good for you, Eddie. Good for you, Julia. Good for you, Jonah, for co-writing the damn movie. And Lauren London, you got a career for yourself, because you also, I'm talking so damn much, but I guess keep it going. You also like you showed versatility, because Lauren, I don't know if you know this, but like she's usually like super skinny. Like she looks like a like model chick. Like she actually was she's in videos like with like a Pharrell. I was just fronting. Anyway, so she's totally like in that. And she actually dated what's his name? Lil Wayne, and then she dated a Nipsey Hussle. So when you see her in this movie, it's actually grief weight. Okay, so she looks different. I actually didn't recognize her, but it shows versatility because she's like a round the way girl. And her and Jonah, like you buy it. Like even though the way they meet is so like jarring, and Jonah has to like kind of like diffuse the situation and is able to do it with his phone, which is hilarious. Like you just buy it. Like they totally work. And I'm just so glad that this movie happened. So anyway, that is my more glowing than I expected review of You People. It's on Netflix. Go see it. If you have I'm talking again too damn much, but I'm excited. That's what I do. And you're seeing it live and direct, Jen, for the first time. If you see it and you have some comments, leave a comment. Like, let us know what you think. Anything else to add? Anything?
I mean, it was great. I wasn't sure going into it if it was like more comedic, more romantic. But I mean, it wasn't like I was laughing a lot, but it wasn't like your typical just dropped down silly, laughing comedy. But it had a lot of romance in it too. They were definitely the odd couple, but they did work. I definitely bought their relationship. They were adorable together. And I mean, I agree with pretty much everything that you're saying. I definitely think it's worth a watch.
Word. Andy said it was good, not great. It was good, and I would agree. It was good.
I agree. It wasn't life shattering, but no. It was entertaining, and I liked the premise of it, and I think they did a good job.
Woohoo! Nice. The one thing I'll say too, because I haven't seen it, but you did say you haven't seen David Duchovny in much. If you have the time and the inclination, you should check out Californication. Might be Showtime or HBO. It's an older one for sure. But he's an author, a novelist. He's sort of a little washed up, and kind of just living off of who he's been his whole life. And he's a sex addict. So there's a little bit of sex in the show for sure. But it's also a really good show. Like it's really interesting to see him, his character struggle with the things that he struggles with. But it was really good. I'm trying to think, his wife, she was the wife on the show where, dude from 24, Kiefer Sutherland, played, where he became the president. I don't know if you saw that show.
Oh,
yeah.
He
was forced
on ABC.
Yeah, where he was forced to become the president. It was but she played his wife in that. And I thought that was a pretty good, pretty decent show. But Californication was really good. I actually really, really enjoyed that. So if you are looking to take in some David Duchovny, he was very entertaining in that, because he wasn't he wasn't necessarily hilarious, but he was funny.
Well,
because it's definitely a dramedy because it's tackling a hard subject, you know.
yeah.
But it was good. It was really good. So I'd certainly recommend it. Just like I said, if you're trying to find something besides X-Files to watch David Duchovny in, that would be the one I'd recommend. He was also in a movie called Evolution, right around early 2000s, I think. I don't remember much of it. I remember liking it, but I don't remember much about the movie itself. That was pretty solid. So before I hijack everybody's world again and take you guys on the trip to Boston, the Boston QZ for The Last of Us, the hell with Pete. Andrew, you watched Velma. So tell me why it sucks so bad.
Wow. Okay.
But the biggest reason I say that, it is the lowest rated animated series on IMDb in IMDb's history. It was a 1.3. So, and it's the third lowest rated series of any kind on IMDb. So very interesting. I watched the first episode. I did not watch, I think I started to watch the second episode and fell asleep because that's what I do. I'm a very tired old man. The first episode was very problematic. I did not like it. It was too tongue-in-cheek for me for the first episode. Like that whole opening scene with the girls in the shower, and I was like, it's too much. But that's all I really have to say. It was just the whole thing was over the top. So I know you watched more. There's only 4 episodes. Is there 6 episodes now? Okay.
I watched all damn 6. So that said, and this is for everyone here, did you guys watch Scooby-Doo as kids?
Yes.
You did?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I don't know what kind of question that is, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm
no,
like,
it's
who
totally,
can say they didn't?
I didn't really do it.
Really?
I am the hater. Like, I don't like musicals. I don't like comedies. I don't like Disney. Like, me and Kevin actually, yeah, exactly. Me and Kevin actually, like, we straight up beefed, like, for a little bit. I'm exaggerating, but not that much, actually, over Disney. I said some shit that he didn't like. But anyway, so yeah, no, I'm a weird kid. I was a weird kid. I always liked serious shit, and Scooby was a bit too silly for me. So I think that's also partly why I don't hate it, because it's not like, it's not shitting all over my childhood. Velma, to me, it's like She-Hulk meets Invincible, and I'll kind of describe what that means. So did you watch She-Hulk at all, Jen?
I haven't finished it, but yes, I've watched quite a few episodes.
All right, yeah. So it definitely has like a bit of a slant towards being against just kind of like traditional, like mainstream patriarchy, whatever. Like it definitely has like a slant. And Invincible is this like animated show that has violence and sex, and it's just like, it's totally adult. And Velma, I think, combines the two. So it's very irreverent, and honestly, I think it's made for those who felt like they never fit in. It's made for like the weirdos, basically, who have not been seen. I did some reading, and I know Mindy Kaling actually was part of the development. This is very much her voice, along with the person who wrote and produced the show. And it does, in my opinion, kind of try too hard. It's like Daria, but then like amplified. So it's like, if you are like, there's lots of just jabs at like things, like if you're popular, or if you're a male, or if you're like a white male, or like whatever. It really just kind of makes fun of all these people, but it also makes fun of itself, in terms of like Velma herself is like, she has all these anxiety problems, and she, like, every time she has an anxiety attack, she almost like dies and needs to be revived with like adrenaline. And I wish I could actually talk a bit more about the actual plot of the show. So here's what I'll say. Okay, so Velma herself, like her mom went missing or something like that, and she's trying to solve the mystery. Shaggy has been like basically race swapped into another guy named Norville, who basically is like in the friend zone and totally wants her, and he's trying to like manipulate. It's kind of weird, creepy, but then he figures out like she actually is into she's into Daphne, and Daphne and her used to be friends, but then Daphne got hot and popular, so she's all with the popular girls, and Velma's just like over here, but they still kind of have a thing for each other. It's weird, like it's messy, it's all over the place, but because it's such a train wreck, like sometimes you just can't look away. I have to see where this is going, and I also have to see like, why does everyone hate it so much? It is really hated. Like I know Leah calling you out, like just like shouting you out, rather, not calling you out, shouting you out. Like you said, like you watched the first episode and your boyfriend was laughing, but not because of the show, but your facial expression the whole time as you're watching the show. You're like, it was just cringe. I would just say watch the show to get a slice or a viewpoint of people out there who haven't really had their voices heard, and they're expressing themselves. But I don't know if the show understands that not everybody sees the world like you see it. As a matter of fact, it might be very few, like fewer than you think, which is why everyone hates it. Because not only is it a very kind of cynical and almost overtly attacking, pessimistic view, but you're also taking something that was very near and dear to like millions of people, which is Scooby-Doo, and putting a completely different spin on it. Scooby-Doo is fun and light, and this is dark and cynical, and just it turns everything on its head. One thing they should have done, and I read this like about from the showrunner, he said this is not meant to replace Scooby-Doo. This is like an ice planet elsewhere tale thing that's happening, and it does not affect the main Scooby-Doo universe. This is a different universe. And what they should have done, frankly, they should have opened the show with like regular Scooby-Doo, and then all of a sudden it's like some sort of like portal or something, and it's like, this is like over here. So like, don't worry, Scooby and Shaggy and everybody else, they're all fine, but this is just some weird shit. So we're just gonna have a thought experiment. That I think would have done would have been received better. So that's kind of like my opening salvo into it. I didn't really talk about the plot very much. Daphne, like, oh, by the way, there's a running joke about Daphne being half Asian, even though she has red hair. And the reason why is because Constance Wu is like her voice actor, I should say. Daphne has like 2 lesbian moms. Yeah, man, it's like, I get where they're going, but I just think the execution was a bit tone deaf. But because of all the controversy, maybe people will start watching it. Who knows? So we'll see. Again, I say to the people watching or listening, if you have thoughts on Velma, let us know as well, because maybe somebody else likes it. Maybe it has a cult following. But yeah, that's my kind of description of Velma. Any questions?
Not a question, but
I feel intrigued.
Yeah, I would definitely like.
You have intrigued me.
Certainly tell anybody to watch it, right? Like I would tell anybody to give it a shot. I didn't have a problem with like the cultural aspect of the things that they did. I didn't care that it was different. There has to be like they've already fucked up Scooby-Doo like 3 times. Like there's some shitty Scooby-Doo out there. I still caught Scooby-Doo a few times in high school. Like I remember the first time that I actually cut school, went over to my friend's house in my junior year, made breakfast at his house and watched fucking Scooby-Doo. So like I was watching the original Scooby-Doo basically, as a late teen, almost adult.
Wow.
I had my daughter at 20. So she was watching variations of Scooby-Doo when she was like 4 or 5. So by the time I was 25, I was watching the newer iterations of Scooby-Doo. And then in the past 5 or 6 years, my boys never really got into Scooby-Doo, but Scooby-Doo has been redone in a horrific animation style that just awful. but in everything they've ever done, they've kept the gang exactly as they were. You had Fred, he's white. You got Daphne, she's white. You got Velma, she's white. You got the only brown person on the show is Scooby-Doo, and he's a dog. You know what I mean? Like, and so I didn't have any problem with her being brown. Like, by all means, that's great. It's interesting to me that they talk about Daphne being Asian, and she's played by Constance Wu, and she looks fucking white as a ghost. Like, she doesn't like. I think the artist should have leaned into that a little bit.
No, it's a joke. Like, it's a complete meta joke. Like, Daphne is like, you actually do meet her real parents. Like, no, there's no Asian in her. Like, she's white.
Yeah, and that bothers me more than Mindy Kaling being
Indian.
Velma, and I don't even care that fake Shaggy's black. Like, I think that's cool.
So the original characters are in this. All of them? It's not just Velma?
Except for Scooby.
Yes, Scooby's not in it.
Fred is a douche. Like, he's
a total D-bag.
He's like a rich kid, and like he's like, oh my god, like he can't feed himself. Like, he literally, like, he's like, mommy, cutty, like he has to have his food cut for him. He's also totally shallow. He thinks like, like he can't ever remember, like he thinks Velma's like Mexican or something. Like, he's just a total mindless douche. But he gets a book where he actually learns to how to see inner beauty. So then all of a sudden he's all into Velma, and his dad's like, no, and tries to desensitize him and take him to a strip club to normalize his attraction. Like, this is, dude, like, this is where the show goes. It's no holds barred.
So now I know why everybody's screaming, this is not for children.
Is it young kids? The opening scene, it grounds itself in not being for children right then. Like, literally, I mean, it's a shower scene. Like, so all of the girls are in the shower. They're not just in the locker room, they're in the shower, in the water.
Things are obscure.
Soaked up. They're covering up the things that would make it dirty. But I mean, it's not girls wrapped in a towel like you would see on any other show. Like, they're naked, they just happen to have soap in the places that they don't want to
be there.
But you watch that scene and you immediately know this is not for kids. There's no illusion there.
Got it.
So
so if you're intrigued, I
do feel intrigued. I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. You can always just turn it off.
Exactly. That's my thing. I think because you never know. Like, you just never know when somebody's gonna give it a shot and be like, you know what, it's just my kind of weird, and that's totally okay. From what I saw, it was not my kind of weird. And
Daphne is my favorite character, and the reason why I like Daphne in this is because she's able to straddle both worlds. Like, she gets Velma's weird shit, but she also gets, okay, now I can be normal and popular, and I like that. I like that she has that self-awareness to be able to code switch, whereas Velma is completely hates everybody who is cool, basically. And that's and I like that. I like the fact that at least they don't make Velma this shining paragon of awesomeness. No, Velma is very flawed. The one thing I'll also say, though, that I like, that someone I came to this, no one else said it, but it's true. Remember how She-Hulk was criticizing everything, but then didn't offer okay, so if all this sucks, then what's better, right? I think it's easy to criticize something, but if you can't come up with a better thing, then why are you hating? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like this show is kind of the same thing. It's okay, you suck, but I suck too. So does that mean everybody sucks? Come on, dude. If you're, again, I'm all about, if you're gonna hate on something, then at least come with it better, because it's so much easier to put down and destroy than to build up, So that's what I'm saying. So I feel that's also partly maybe why the show isn't getting a lot of love. But I think ultimately my suspicion is, no, I think that for the same reason I hate Michael Bay and the live action Transformers, when you take something that I really loved and then just completely change it up and it's not better than the original, then I can't support it. So thank you, as always. I get enthusiastic on this podcast for letting me just get excited and talk about the damn show. So HBO Max, let me know your thoughts. But that's all I got for Velma for now. And if it gets better or worse, I will let you know.
What age do we think this is for?
Oh God, 18.
Oh, 18. I was like, can a 13-year-old watch this?
No, I think a 15, 16-year-old can handle it.
Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if I was a 15 or 16-year-old and I actually felt alienated, like in high school, I might like it.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because we got some situation with the teens, and it can be troubling and difficult. So I was wondering if it might, ring true or help somebody in that sense. But again, there might be some too crazy of a.
Yeah, no, I think they can handle it. But I would love actually if you do get like feedback from the high schoolers that you might know in your household. I'd love to know what they think. Like, is it cool, or is this like, yeah, no?
Okay, I'll work on that.
See, and I can say my boys are a little weird. But I know they would hate this show because like we'll talk
it's
about
not their kind of weird as you were saying.
No, because we'll talk about The Last of Us in a minute, and they're so funny because my oldest son's 15, my youngest is 12, and they've been watching The Last of Us because they've seen me play the game. Like, we've talked about what's in it, they know what's going on. So it was funny when this episode started because they have the autopsy scene. And there's a naked woman on the table. It's not the autopsy I was worried about. I was like, boys, there's going to be boobs. And they're like, like they're so disappointed in life that there's boobs on TV.
Well, those are definitely not that kind of boobs you probably want to see in that situation.
But also like I don't know if you remember being 15, but I don't think anybody wanted to sit down with their dad and watch boobs.
It's
like,
the worst.
It's weird. It's awkward, right?
Yes.
And so like I was like, look, you can look away, but they're not there for fun. Like it's very realistic. Like the reason they're there is realistic, and so I was like, it's okay. I was like, if you want to look away, I'll tell you what happens in the scene, whatever. And they were fine. Like they were cool. But like I can see my oldest watching at 15, I can see him watching that opening scene from Velma and just being like, oh no, just being like totally uncomfortable. So it's
especially watching with a parent.
Yes, for sure.
Andrew, you and I have talked about this before.
Yes, like I'm telling you,
you
like,
have to be watching it with your parent as though
I still don't my breath away. Like I'm traumatized by that song because that no Top Gun. Yo, I got it for that. Like I like stayed in the bathroom and waited until the song was over and then came back because it's just weird, man. It's weird.
Yes,
it's weird. And in Terminator, even that like like when like Sarah Connor like they're doing the thing, like yo,
I know.
Traumatized.
I know it's awkward. My mom is huge on movies and TV and wants to watch things with me all the time. And she puts this stuff on. I'm like, I don't want to watch this with you. It's so uncomfortable, even as an adult. That's the kind of stuff you watch by yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're on a tangent now. But I remember also like my dad, like we went and watched The Shape of Water, I think it's called. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Dude, there is so much like, okay, like literally the main character, like before she goes to work, she takes a bath, and yes, she like is like straight up taking care of business. Like it's part of her morning routine. Okay, like that happened in the movie theater. So it's me, my older brother, and my dad. I was like, God. And then like there's full frontal, like, it won an Oscar for Best Picture, I think. Guillermo del Toro. But yeah, we weren't ready. Like there was just so much sex.
Yeah, there was doing it in The Shape of Water, and that was already weird because it's
a fish man,
a fish woman, or man, yeah, and yeah, it's not cool, man. Nobody wants to see that.
Warnings. We need warnings.
All right. So enough with fish porn. Did I have anything else? I don't know. Did I? I covered. I watched real quick before we get. I watched Donnie Darko this week, and it has been many moons since I've watched Donnie Darko. And number one, I love it. I own it. This time I actually watched director's cut, which is about 25 minutes longer. What makes it different? I don't know, because it's been so long since I watched it. That didn't particularly clear anything up for me. But the show or the movie is a trip. Like, it's definitely out there. I think if you've never seen it, like it's this kid played by Jake Gyllenhaal. I want to say this was 2001 is when this came out.
That sounds exactly right.
And so it's a super young Jake Gyllenhaal. His sister is in it playing his sister. So that's a real stretch. And what happens is that he's a weird kid, and so they think that he's, I don't know, not schizophrenic, but like he's going to therapy. He's got some problems, and so he hears voices, and he's seeing this creepy bunny rabbit looking thing. And one night it convinces him to go out and do bad shit outside. And while he's out there in the middle of the night, this engine from like a jetliner falls into his house right on his bedroom. And since he's out, he doesn't die and nobody else does. And it's just kind of the weirdness that ensues after that. It's really kind of a hard movie to explain, but the idea is ultimately what he discovers throughout the film is that he's living in this almost pocket universe that was created by this event that happened, and him getting drug out of it. And it's certainly a deep and bizarre story, and you have to pay attention the whole time, and you almost have to watch it twice for the movie to really work. Because the ending, if you missed anything, if you didn't catch it, if you didn't pay attention, the ending almost doesn't make sense. And I don't want to give that away if people haven't seen it. But it's a weird ass movie. And so I definitely recommend it, but recommend it when you have time, when you're not playing on your phone, which guilty of all the time. Don't watch it when you're tired, because you'll miss something. It is a cool movie. The first time you watch it, for a lot of it, it almost feels like a horror film, between the Frank the rabbit and all the other kind of weird shit that's going on. It really does feel like a horror film. And then right at the end, with things that are happening, it really turns out that it wasn't at all. And it's more of a science fiction film than you thought it was. But Jake and Maggie are really good in it. Patrick Swayze has an appearance. Not the best dude in it, actually. I want to say there's somebody. Oh, Noah Wiley makes an appearance. If you were ever a fan of The Librarians or ER. So Pete will flip his lid because he loves The Librarians. He's the only person that I have ever met that liked The Librarians, but he liked The Librarians. Yeah, it's just a good weird flick, but you got to be in just the right mood and the right like schedule. You've got to be able to watch the whole thing without distraction, otherwise it's kind of meaningless. But I definitely recommend it, especially if it's almost like I can only recommend it to people that have already seen it, because it's so old, right? Like it's 21 years old, 22 years old. So it's a weird one, but it's good. It's good. I would say go watch it for sure. Now,
definitely classic. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago. Like,
have you both seen it?
I have not seen it, but
so
let's talk.
I would
need to go watch that now.
I would say do it,
Good.
But certainly do it when you have, like I said, when you have the time. It's
no multitasking during it.
Yeah. You'll be disappointed in the movie, I think, if you do. You really can't miss a lot in it. So with that said, we will move on to my baby, The Last of Us, episode 2, which, funny enough, The Last of Us was just given a season 2. So they've announced that based on the viewership from this episode 2, they're going to give it a second season. And my guess with that, knowing how big the second game was, I would wager there's going to be a third season. I think they're going to split the second game up into 2 seasons. Again, it's a guess, but I think it feels like an educated one. But yeah, I would say I really liked this episode. It's always interesting for me because I know what's going to happen when these episodes start. I've watched the show enough to know what's coming. I know what I'm in for. And it kind of hits different for me because for me, I'm trying to see what they've changed, and what's sticking the same. I mean, I'm definitely obviously seeing different actors than I saw in the game. But it's cool. So again, I'm going to do what I did last week. You guys are the ones watching this for the first time. So, and the whole excitement for me for this show is to see what you guys are getting out of it. So, number one, did you like it? And if you did, what did you like?
Who wants to go first?
You can go first.
I go first? Okay. So what I liked and what I wondered about was the opening scene, like where the doctor is kind of taken by the military, and then she obviously does like the autopsy, and then it's kind of like it was kind of shocking and grim, but of course you guys know I like grim. So when he's like, when she finds out, like, okay, so like you didn't catch the person who did it, they're like, no. They're like, okay, bomb the shit out of the fucking place.
Yeah.
Like it's a wrap. Like, and she says it so casually and so like, yeah, we're fucked. So let me go home. I want to be with my family when we're incinerated, but like this is what you got to do, And I'm just like, damn, So like that was like, it was a great stark like world building in terms of like, this is the world that we're living in. And I like that juxtaposition between normal life in the beginning of the outbreak and then like, of course, the post-apocalyptic shit. And I'm not gonna lie, like I feel like part of why this show is resonating so much is because we went through our own fucking COVID shit. Like I remember like when COVID first broke out, like I went and I tried watching Outbreak, but I was like, okay, this is a little too dramatic. But there was another movie, I forget what it was called, but it felt more realistic. So anyway, we go back to like, the future. And I knew that Tess like was not going to like be part of the show for the long term. I knew this. However, I was shocked a little bit at just how little we got to know Tess. I am glad that she went out like in the best way possible. If that was me, I couldn't think of a better way. It's like, okay, if I'm done, like at least let me take as many of you mother effers as I possibly can. And let me make sure that my demise is as quick as possible, But overall, like, I just think we're only in episode 2. So for me, it's like, I'm all about story. I'm all about characters. I'm all about learning more about characters. So we still are at the very beginning, as far as I'm concerned. But, for me, for you to make me care about Sarah as quickly as you did in the first episode, and then for me to make me care about Tess like in just 2 episodes, and then actually be sad when like we have to say goodbye to Tess, like that's damn good storytelling. And basically, oh my god, and even the Joel Tess relationship, like what was happening there? Like, I didn't know if they were romantic or if they're just friends, but I think I think at the end of the day, it was like we're both very broken people who can't trust anyone. All we have is each other, which I think is a beautiful thing. It was just a pure kinship. But then like the way he even just says goodbye, it's just like a look, and then boom. It was just so stark. I just, whew, it's a heavy show, and I'm here for it. So that's my take.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I liked both episodes, but I felt like this one was a little bit more, I don't know, I just liked it a lot better. It just hit me more. I like, like you said about it relating to COVID and all that. I think it is, that's always kind of those like, what ifs, could this be happening in real life? That sort of a scenario. But when Tess, I don't know if this is like telling too much. You kind of did say some things are ending here and there. So, but like when she was standing there waiting and the thing came and oh my gosh, like, did she want it? I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I absolutely know what you're talking about. And I
but-
think, sorry, I jumped in. Like, I think that's freaky. Like, and I'll tell you why it's freaky, not for just like the physical shit, whatever. But the thing is, it's kind of in a weird way, kind of cool. And I'll tell you why. Because it's like, yo, so like, I'm definitely infected, because like they're not trying to kill me. They're like, hey, buddy. Like they're intermingling. They were communicating, they were communing, like he was trying to commune with her tentacles, basically. But that was crazy. It's like, okay, so it's almost like seeing a peak of life after death before death. Like she's already dead. Like she's the undead. Like they're zombies. She's a zombie. And they're like, yo, hey, new zombie. Like, hey, newbie. Like that's, and then she's like, the whole time. Right. Like that was great too. But anyway, yeah, that was a freaky, awesome scene.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool too, because you see her as she's trying to light her, like it's getting harder and harder and harder for her to try to light her. And I think it's as they are getting close to her, that chemical communication between the fungus is getting stronger. I think she's losing herself faster with all of them close to her. I think that was kind of the point of the scene.
Are you meaning you felt like she was already infected before that? He was right there up in her face. Like,
yeah, she was infected.
Her?
Yeah, she was infected from the bite on her shoulder.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. During that museum scene. So at some point when she separated from them, she got attacked. She got bit. When she came out of it, that's why when she comes out, he's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Oh, I just twisted my ankle," which she did, but that was not her.
Okay, you're right. I think issue. I was not putting two and two together there. So now
that's why she had to go when she went out. Like, yo, I'm bitten. So like, it's a wrap. This is
take one for the team.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I thought it was cool, and I love the actress. So Fringe is one of my favorite shows like ever. I love Fringe. She's the main character on Fringe. She was in a show called Mindhunters on Netflix, which is a really cool show. If you haven't watched that, it's really good if you're looking for something intense. So I like her. I was, it's hard when they cast somebody that I really like in a show that I know has a short lifespan for that show. They're going to stretch her out a little bit. It looks like from the previews for next episode, because we're going to meet Bill and Frank in the next episode. And it looks like they're going to do some backstory on them, which isn't in the game. And they're going to take advantage of that backstory to have Anna Torv on set. Like Joel and Tess will meet them. We'll see what their meetings are like and stuff like that before we come into current times where Tess is now gone, and he's going to meet them with Ellie for the first time. So it's really good in that regard. Did either of you, I'm sure you did, Andrew, but did you guys watch the post show where they talk about the episode?
I'm trying to remember if I did, frankly, because like I usually do, but like I don't know if the whole Frank and whatever was talked about in the post show, because if it was
in the post show. So when the credits end, they do a preview of the next episode, and then they cut into the cast and crew talking about the show.
Yeah, no, I usually do, but I don't know if I did this time, which is really
I felt like it popped up automatically
It will if you just
Yeah.
let it run. Yeah.
Yeah, but
exactly.
I don't know that I was completely paying attention, so I wouldn't be able to speak about it.
Well, I know I did for the first episode. I know that for a fact. We talked about it. But anyway, what did we miss if we didn't watch it?
So one of the big things in the show, or sorry, in the game, and they may have talked about this in the first one, is that the characters, or not the characters, but the fungus is spread through spores in the video game. So if you walk into a room and there's spores everywhere, the characters have to put on a gas mask so they can move around. And you know, Craig Mazin, being the genius that he is that directed Chernobyl, was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense because number one, those spores would spread far more than they would in the game. Like the game would, if with the video game, you're keeping things kind of tight to make the story work. But when they're trying to build this world that they want to be ultra realistic, it doesn't make sense for it to be that way. So instead they switch to what is a real life thing, and they talk about this, the way that the fungus exists now in the show is very realistic. And funny enough, they cover it. There's an episode of Fringe that Anna Torv was on where they deal with fungus in the same way. And it's funny, they actually call it the Wood Wide Web instead of the World Wide Web.
Right.
And fungi, whatever, can talk to each other over
Miles.
huge distances because that's what they're designed to do. And I saw some stat today where something like before humans and before, you know, a lot of other life, 80% of what is beneath our feet today was fungal. Like fungus is everywhere. So it's not, none of this stuff is necessarily a huge stretch. One thing I've read in a few different places, that it seems like the people that are saying it are pretty convinced that it was in the show, and I still haven't seen it, is that the way the initial outbreak was spread, not just by bite, but in flour. So the fungus was actually in flour, and that's how it got out to people, which is why when the first episode, when the neighbor is feeding the old lady the biscuits, like she's one of the first people to change because she'd been ingesting so much flour. She hadn't been bit. She hadn't been through anything else. So, you know, this thing had to get out a different way. And so the fungus was growing in flour and being shipped around.
Wow.
And which makes perfect sense. I still haven't seen, for me, and I've watched both episodes 3 times. I haven't seen that clearly to me in the story. But other people are pretty convinced. So yeah. And but it's a cool episode. We get to see the infected kind of move as a unit. We get to see the clickers for the first time, the ones that use use sonar. I thought the costume design on them was amazing. And it's a trip too, because like they did a good job taking something that was from the game, and when you're doing a video game, you know, some art guys just drawing shit out and making it work. To actually put that on a person, I think is pretty impressive. And I think, you know, you got more of Ellie. I think that opening scene with her was interesting, where she literally wakes up and rolls over, and there's Joel with a gun basically pointed right at her. You know, he's like, if she's infected, then she's bad news, you know. So it's a good episode, and it's really cool to me to see all the stuff happen. Like you said, the way she goes out was dope. Like one of the changes from the game to the show, and again, it makes more sense in the show than it does in the game. In the game, Fedra shows up, the military shows up and hunts them down inside the place. So Tess stands up to them because she's already been bitten, so she's going to die. So she tries to hold them off. But you know, I think it might have been on the show's podcast, because I listened to that. where they said that it doesn't make sense. Like Fedra's job is to take care of these quarantine zones.
Yeah. Well, they go
So
outside.
they would only be they'd be at the quarantine zone, and they would have that barrier area that they talked about that they set up, but they wouldn't be going out beyond that. That's not their problem. And so I think it makes sense for it to become the infected in that scene, to give her something to stand up to. Because again, the Fedra wouldn't be there, military wouldn't be there, but you still needed a reason for these guys to be dead in the game. Again, Fedra showed up and hunted them down, and I think they kind of needed to do something different, and I think it really worked. But I think too, now that we're a couple of episodes in, maybe I only posted on Twitter, but I read an interesting article that was written by somebody, I think it was at Screen Rant, that said what their predictions were for the show, having never watched or never played the game. And it was kind of a fun read to see all the things that that they predicted and how right or wrong they were, right? So like, who's going to live, who's going to die, what are they going to come up against, so it made me wonder, like, do you have any predictions going forward, like on what's coming next? It's only 9 episodes, so we're already 2 episodes in. 3rd episode drops tomorrow.
I think that's a better question for Andy. I think Andy definitely is the one who likes to predict like what's going to happen in the show. I'm absolutely someone who just likes to go along for the ride. I want to be immersed. I want to experience it. And frankly, I think when you go in with no expectations, you're also not disappointed by anything. So not really, man. I just want this to feel as epic as, for me, House of the Dragon was. And, because I think as far as all the, streamers are concerned, HBO, I think, has delivered as far as making a show feel like an event where you have to watch it when it comes out. Otherwise, you're going to be spoiled. So no, I'm just ready to see what else happens. And the last thing I'll say on that question is that, I always do this in the damn show. I forget what was I say. There was a point, and it's gone. I'll let Jen answer Kevin's question.
I mean, I don't know that I have any predictions. Again, I don't know the game well enough. I don't know, I'm not that into it yet, but
I remember my point though. Keep going.
You remembered it?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, say, go.
All right. So the other thing though is like, you talk about the changes they make, right? And I think that's also really cool. Like they make changes to the show that make sense for the show, which again takes talent, because again, I think lesser talented people will just make a literal translation from one medium to the other. And then they wonder why does it suck? Well, it sucks because what worked for the game didn't work for the damn movie, or like whatever. So it's like they're making active adjustments. It's almost like stir fry creativity. It's like you can't just make the meal the same every time. Like maybe the ingredients are burning too fast in this fucking skillet. Change it up. So that was my point. That's the other thing. I can't make predictions because they're gonna change it anyway. My prediction is they're gonna make it make sense, and they're gonna make it a damn good show. And by the end, like HBO is just gonna be must have subscription again. People used to cancel their HBO as soon as Game of Thrones is over. Not anymore. I think that you need to keep HBO Max on.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And then, I mean, again, what's the coolest for me is to see like how people feel about what this is. Cause again, I've seen it. Like I know everything for the most part, everything that's going to happen. They're not changing the DNA of the show. They're not changing major plot points of the show. So there's certain things that have to happen to make this season work. There's certain things that have to happen to set us up for, what is now season 2 and potentially season 3. There will be things that have to happen at the end of the show, or at the end of the season, that are wild and crazy and cool. And there's characters that we haven't met yet in the game. we don't ever meet Frank, who's in the next episode. We know that he exists, but we don't meet him. So they took advantage of the talent that they know. I think part of it comes out of HBO's casting, right? Like HBO, you know, networks will cast people they know. And Murray Bartlett was in the first season of White Lotus. He was the hotel manager in the first season of White Lotus. So he's going to be Frank.
Good.
I remember because I don't know why I can never remember his actual name, but Ron Swanson is going to play Bill. And I remember when they announced that he was going to be on the show, and everybody instantly was like, oh shit, he's going to play Bill. Like, that's what it has to be. And then he wasn't. Like, they said that they had him cast since
Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman, that's right. Yeah. And everybody was like, well, he has to be Bill. Like, he's perfect for Bill. And they had cast somebody else. Like, they actually had somebody else cast. And unless they were just totally bullshitting everybody, that guy dropped out, and then they moved Nick Offerman into that role. Nice. Which, again, he is the perfect guy to play Bill. Like, he does the grumpy guy really well. It's going to be really interesting to see. Everything that I have heard from people involved in the show say that the third episode is the one that gets you. It's the one that, like, this is the one that's going to cement you into the show, which is amazing to me that people would think that the first episode didn't do that, right? Like, because I was in, and granted, I was the easy get. If you don't screw it up, I'm in. You know, like, this show was like made for me. So it's really cool, and I'm excited to see this next episode, knowing that. But it's also it's been really great just to see these characters come to life. I think Pedro Pascal is doing an amazing job. I think Anna Torv did a great job. I think it's disappointing that she had to die in this episode, but she had to die in this episode. That's the way the story goes. You keep her around, it changes all of the dynamics that they need to keep in place further down the road. And this show will certainly deal with loss heavily. Like, a lot of people have died already in the past. A lot of people are going to die going forward, and we're going to see some of those people in the past die. So my hope is that the ones that don't make it, they're still as meaningful in the show as they are in the game. But at the same time, like, I don't have a concern about that. Like, they've done such a good job on this show so far, making you care about these characters, making you worry about them, making you feel like you know them. And like Tess says at one point, she's like, we're not good people. Right? Like, and they're not. And I don't know how much they've said about what they've done in the past, but they're smugglers now, but they've done some bad shit in the past. Like, they're not good people. They've done bad things to stay alive. And that's the thing too, is like, especially when you think about what had to have happened in this apocalypse, you know, they didn't wake up 20 years later and just live in this QZ, right? They don't like the government any more than the Fireflies do. They just aren't actively out there shooting at them, right? So, like, there were things that anybody would have to do in the first few years of this thing to survive. So it's they're really cool characters, because the show will always deal with, and I know, Andrew, you like this, is the shades of gray, right? Like, these people aren't just heroes walking out and being heroes and happy and kind and nice. Ellie's a little shit. Like, she's a smart, like, I love the line about, you know, she asked for a gun and they're like, no. She's like, great, I'll just throw fucking sandwiches at them. And I thought that was hilarious. Like, she's fantastic. And I'm trying to think, I mean, this episode only really had the three characters, right? There was nobody else in this episode.
Right.
Yeah, pretty true.
I mean, other than the infected. So it's always cool, I think, when a show can just lean on your
characters,
on your main characters, and watch it happen. I said this before too, the set design is ridiculous. The art design, like this, it has to win those awards. Like I don't see how something else can compete with that. It's ridiculous. So we'll see what happens going forward.
May I ask a question?
Yes, I may not answer it if it's spoilery, but you go right ahead.
Yeah, no, it's actually not even so much about The Last of Us, but one of the things that, again, I think I kind of said like earlier on in the show is, because we have a guest, I want to make sure the guest gets a chance to kind of like share a little bit more about themselves. And I know that like, we asked you like, what did you think of The Last of Us? And you're like, I'm still getting into it, right? So I know when we had Kim on, Kim talked about what she was into as far as like TV shows. And the thing I remember was like Eileen British. So I remember there was a show, is it Outlander, I think it's called, that like she's totally into, like that's her jam, right? So what about you? Like if you had to say like your top like maybe 3 shows of all time, or just something you're really passionate about, or something that really just kind of resonated, like what is your jam? We know I hate, again, musicals and whatever. So what do you like and what do you not like?
I mean, okay, I don't know that I can just like pinpoint. I'm the worst when people say, what's your favorites? I am terrible at that because I don't know why. I just have never been able to do that. But if I just had to overall say some things that I like, I mean, I definitely like comedies. I tend to like a lot of terrible kind of like rom-com teenagery shows, which is fun because I can watch them with my teenager now. So that maybe that's why I lean towards that. But there's some really good ones on Netflix, I don't know if you guys are definitely watching those, but I am a huge Disney fan though. So I definitely got your back there. We can duke it out if we need to do that at some point.
Sure.
But yeah, I like everything. I'm just really all over the place with what I watch. I mean, I'm watching You People one day, I'm watching Handmaid's Tale the next, I'm watching, some teeny bopper thing the next. I'm going to give everything a chance.
All right. Well, I know that you saw Avatar 2, and yes. I know Kevin did not see Avatar 2, and Kevin is not fussed to see Avatar 2 because James Cameron can be such a douche. However, I gotta say, man, like for me, it's almost like, and not everyone will agree with me on here, okay? But to me, it's like, if you can back up your shit talking, I actually kind of respect you. Like, I remember the first time, like Kanye, he's ruined now, but Kanye West back in like 03, 04 was talking so much shit. He's like, I'm the greatest, blah, blah, blah. This is 03, 04, okay? By the time like Golder came out, like this is like 05, 06, I'm like, okay, actually, you know what? You actually are the shit. And then 07, 08 comes out, like, 808s and Heartbreaks. And, he was basically, like, he destroyed himself. Like, this guy lasted for so long, reinvented himself, did the auto-tune thing. Then, like, he's the shit, right? Same thing with Cameron. I feel like we talked about, okay, which directors have lasted a long time, who've been around, And I think it was last show or 2 shows ago, I think it was Pete. Pete said Cameron. And I'm like, holy shit, you're right. Because Cameron's first real hit was The Terminator, 84. And you fast forward to 2020 mother effing 3, and your movie that like came out like over a decade after the first one is now like the number 4 biggest grossing film of all time, and has been number 1 for 7 weeks in a row. So I don't know, man. Like, I think I'm like, talk your shit, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you actually backed it up. No one thought you were going to do it, and you did it. And you weren't even really trying that hard. If anything, you were.
Oh, he tried hard. He spent $1 billion making the movie.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking more. No, I'm talking more about like actually like with the promotion and everything. Like, he was more like, maybe it was just like some chess, like it was 3D chess. It was like, he was almost like the way he was talking about it. It was like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna break 2 billion. Knowing all it needed to break was 1 billion to be profitable, right? But he was like preparing like society for, if this bombs, he kind of knew it. So he just kind of like, he hedged his bet. The movie's doing way better than I thought it would. I did not give a fuck about this movie, okay? But then I saw the trailers, and it actually got me curious there was nothing else going on. So yes, once again, whenever I'm back in California, we go see a movie with my dad, Regal Cinemas, Hacienda, baby. Anyway, so we saw the movie there, RPX, and we were like, I was like, damn, that was actually pretty good. So anyway, that was my long-winded rant to give you a chance to talk about Avatar 2. What was your experience?
Well, I too had not, I mean, you started posting about it and some things, it kind of turned me off. I was like, I don't think I need to see this. I mean, I remember I watched Avatar. I didn't remember too much about it. And I wasn't planning on seeing it. And then my daughter was like, I want to go see Avatar. It's like, okay. I definitely feel like it's the type of movie you need to see in the theater.
Yeah.
Because number one, it's long, 3 hours. I mean, I'm watching that at home. No, I'm going to get up and do the dishes or get on my phone.
Yeah,
something
you're watching it in 3 parts
me.
at home.
Yes,
exactly. So I had to be, you know, give it my all. And I was pleasantly surprised. I did really love it. I had wished I went and watched the first one before, because there were parts with, I'm blanking on Sigourney Weaver's character.
But her character, like where
there was things with her that I wished I had remembered better. I was kind of confused on like the kid situation and the dynamic of the family, and I was confused on who was what. So I think watching the first, you didn't have to, but I think it would have helped.
Yeah.
And I just liked it. It was really good. I didn't feel bored. I mean, I was a little bit antsy because it's long, but I really felt like it captivated my attention the whole time. It was beautiful. You know, you just felt it. I mean, definitely that's why you gotta be in the theater. But yeah, I was really shocked that I liked it as much as I did. I went with you know, my daughter, and she really liked it. She's 13, and yeah, it was awesome. And then I actually recently just watched like a making kind of it. I mean, I felt like I gave it even more respect. Like just what the actors have to do this stuff, like all the diving and oxygen tanks, and I mean really putting themselves at risk because they're underwater so long. I mean, it actually made me really respect the process and, you know, James Cameron a little bit. I was not going to hate on him. I mean, he worked hard.
So Kevin, like, is there any chance that you will see the film in the
and not because I'm not interested, actually. Like I said before, like my biggest issue is where I live. It takes me a long time to get to the movie theater. You know, so if I'm not going with my kids, if I'm not taking everybody to see the movie, I'm not going. They have no interest in seeing it. They watched the first Avatar. They're like, yeah, that was okay. You know, it's hard. Like the MCU has a thing where my kids grew up with the MCU. So when Ant-Man comes out, we're going to go see that. Like, that's just, we know that's happening. And you know, when you see Infinity War and Endgame, and those are 2.5 hour, 3 hour movies, that's okay because we are built into that. Like, we know that. Watching Avatar at home, they're like, cool, these blue people or whatever. You know, when we saw it, when it came out as adults, that was it was a novelty. So, I mean, we're talking pre-MCU. This was the biggest fucking movie ever made. The effects in it were off the charts good, like better than anything out there. Sure, it was weird that you had to hump your horse to go for a ride, you know, but whatever, you know, that's fine. Yeah, just stick your head wang into the horse and go. But like it was good for us. Like, it was a great story. It wasn't original. That's the thing about you know, Avatar, is that it's not necessarily an original story. We're talking, you know, all of the colonial stories we've heard throughout our lives, right? And so it wasn't necessarily new territory, but it was done well. Like, the story was good. It just wasn't, you know, it wasn't something that hadn't been done before in other ways. But it was great. like, and no question, I saw it at least twice in the theater when the original came out. Like I saw it once, and I saw it once in 3D. And so I liked it, and then it was done, and then it was, 15 years later or whatever it was, and like I forgot about these characters. I don't care about these characters. I didn't I just didn't have a horse in the race anymore. It had been too long. And so I watched the movie again maybe last year with my kids, and I was like, yeah, that was okay.
So I gotta say though, as someone who doesn't have a family, as in like my own family, that is, I have a family. But like it was a movie about family, man. Like it really was. And I know one of the things that he's
so is the Fast and the Furious, but I'm not rushing to see that either.
No, I mean, yeah, it's not like family, like Nick or Dom Toretto, whatever. Like, no, like he actually, again, Cameron was making me mad because one of the things, like, if you diss Myers-Briggs, if you diss Facebook, if you diss Attack on Titan, if you diss New Edition, and if you diss Marvel Cinematic Universe, I like you less, okay? So he talked about, oh, Marvel movies, they suck because they don't deal with family. I'm like, fuck you, man. But no, dude, like it really did. And really the dynamic that really got me, and I think we talked about this on Facebook, Jen, like was, not to spoil anything, but I'll just speak in code. Like when Batty like actually has like the moment with like, I'll just call him fucking what do I call him? Justin.
Monkey.
Justin. What's that?
Is that our word?
Monkey, but like I call him Justin Bieber. Yeah. So when Batty has his moment with Justin Bieber, which will mean nothing to you, Kevin. Okay. When Batty has his moment, I was just like, man, that was some real shit and good parallels, because like obviously Sam Winston, whatever his name is, Jake Sully, yeah, he ruined his life. He straight up became an addict. Like he wasn't being cast anymore. Like he was like, okay, I mean, you're the star of the original movie. Why do I give a fuck about you? Okay. But Sully actually is like, it's like he picked up where he left off. He's still a heroic leader of his family. He's straight up taking care of them. And then Zoe Saldana, like she is fierce. She is scary. She is a mama bear.
Don't mess with mama.
With her kids, she will fuck you up. And like so much so that even people who shouldn't be scared of her were scared of her. And I get it. Like if I was Justin Bieber, I would have also hid. Because like, yeah, she's gonna kill me too. Shit. She's pissed off right now. Anyway, but it really is about family. It's about having to like worry about your children and the children being idiots and not like following direction and like putting themselves in dangerous situations, getting themselves killed. Like and you don't see that in movies. And this, like the next movie is going to be told from the perspective of his kid. Like his kid's going to be like the main character. So I just got to say, I don't know why I just went into this rant, but something you said, I remember you said, I don't give a fuck these characters. And I'm like, actually you will. Like, I feel like this movie, like Sigourney Weaver playing a teenager, like I think she was my favorite character, man. Like she's just so different and kind of ostracized, but special. Like she's MVP, baby. Like she is, like without her, they would have been fucked. So anyway, man, I feel like such a Cameron writer now. So I apologize for this, but I just have to like get that out there. Like all I'm saying is I respect you. Like you said, Jen, I respect you if you can back up your shit talking, because it's not easy to it's not easy to be dope. It's so much easier, again, I said earlier, to put something down than build it up. So if you can build it up, I gotta respect you.
See, and what I don't respect though is talking shit about somebody else that's successful to build yourself up. So when you take a shot at the MCU, you're just being a dick.
I agree.
And
I agree.
You can't say that Marvel isn't doing anything. They're doing everything right. Whether you don't have to like it doesn't have to be for you. You don't have to be fucking Scorsese saying it's not cinema. Sorry, Martin, I know you're pretty fucking good at what you do, but you still don't have to be an asshole.
Agreed.
Like, and so, not every movie is made for families, right? Like, I'm not going to take my kids to see Goodfellas at 8 years old, but I am going to take them to see Ant-Man, and I'm going to take them to see the Avengers, and I'm going to take them to see all these movies. So sure, they're not cinematic brilliance. They're not written, they're not written for the Oscar. They're written for entertainment, and they're better than popcorn films.
Yes, they are. They're better than Michael Bay and Fast and Furious. They are modern day mythology.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, and so many people have taken their shot. And it's funny because you said, we talked about how Cameron has had the longevity, but we said that the guy that really has is Spielberg, and he hasn't made a bad movie. But then last week we talked about Ready Player One.
Exactly.
And so Spielberg has in fact made a shit film. But yeah, I think sure, Cameron deserves his respect, and that's fine. But I'm still not interested in seeing your stuff if you're going to be a dick. I'll watch it for free when it lands on Disney Plus. And I have surround sound and an 80-inch TV, so I don't need to see it in the theater. I'll be fine. I just
fair enough.
I'm curious enough that I want to see the movie. I want to be entertained by it. But I don't want to drive, 40 minutes to the theater by myself to watch a 3-hour movie that I'll probably fall asleep in. No matter how good the movie is, there's reclining chairs and I am always tired. So if I'm watching that movie, I would bet money that if I went to see it by myself, I would fall asleep. Not because it's not good, not because of anything other than just I'm old, man. I'm old and I'm tired. I work. I have a very irresponsible sleeping schedule, as you can see by the fact that we're recording at 1:30 in the morning. I don't take care of myself when it comes to sleep. So I have fallen asleep in many films. And I think I don't have the time and the money to spend on old Jim Cameron.
You could have, told yourself that you're going to not like it, but because you have such a dismal outlook on it, you might actually, sometimes I do that. I think I'm going to hate something and then I enjoy it.
To be fair, when I do watch it, I expect to like it. Like, to be honest, it wasn't necessarily the movie that I ever doubted. It was the way that he marketed himself in the movie that I was
it's a turnoff.
I was like, yeah, you can shove that movie right up your butt.
There's two quick things I want to say about it real quick, because I thought about something after. Okay, we got to talk about Justin Bieber, what we call him, Justin Bieber, monkey, whatever. Really, it's Spider.
Yes.
Miles Socorro. I had to look up his name. So Andrew and I, we both thought it was a little bit strange, right? Was he a little bit strange cast? Is that what we were talking about? That we thought he was an interesting casted in, is that what we were talking about?
Yeah.
Do you agree? Okay. But I had a lot of respect because I was reading up on this kid and he trained. I mean, how many years did they take to make this movie? So he was like 12 years old when they first started this, and what a grueling, all the training and everything he had to do. I actually, I thought he was a little bit strange in the part, but I actually had a lot of respect for him after I read the story and what he
had to film all of his scenes twice, right?
He was a kid, and now I think, I don't know how old he is now, but that I just wanted to touch on because I definitely had.
He's 40 now.
By the way, I also want to make sure, I think we're actually hashing this out live and not live, but pre-recorded anyway. So actually, when I was talking about, I was actually talking about the kind of, I don't know about the decision he made. Okay, remember when Batty was kind of vulnerable and Justin Bieber had to make a decision. Okay, do I save Batty or do I just let Batty kind of let things happen to him the way they're supposed to happen? I don't know if you're following.
Yes.
You are? Yeah.
I think so. I think I am.
Okay, almost like Kevin, close your ears. Close your ears, Kevin. Okay, fine. Anyway, if he had just because the thing is, Batty was making life difficult for them, okay? So if I was Bieber and I saw Batty, and I probably would have been, okay, well, shit, man, sorry, man, that's how it goes, and then join my family and let things kind of happen, right? But no, I think he was like, no, because if I do that, then I'm bad too. So I have to like do the right thing, you know? But you just fucking fucked your family for like 3 more movies now. Like this dude should not be around, you know?
I know.
But you
That was a little
understand
disappointing.
why he did it, you know, because the thing is, Batty, even like when like before, like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about this fucking Justin Bieber kid. Like, but then when push comes to shove, you see what happened, right?
Yeah.
Kevin, I hope you're not paying attention. So anyway, like,
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
pretty sure
I
that
will
we're gonna
honestly
go through
forget.
this. I think nobody's gonna even know what the heck we're talking about. We're talking about Batty,
And
Monkey,
Justin
Justin
Bieber.
Bieber. They're gonna be like, what
what It's
are
all
you
code.
even talking about? They're not gonna follow
Leah,
along.
if you saw, if
whatsoever.
you're watching and you saw Avatar 2, like, let us know if you know what I'm talking about. Because I don't, you know, because the shit like that, those moments are what made me like the damn movie. Like, it was like, okay, this is deeper than I thought. This is really dealing, again, it's about family. Again, not Fast and Furious. It's about
That's all I hear,
family
man. That's all I
time.
hear.
Oh,
It's all about family.
and the relationship between like animal and them.
Yes,
Like, what's
the whales.
The whale. Okay, so that is like,
Don't call
I
him
love
whales.
that
He
part.
gets super
I
pissed.
know.
what?
Cameron gets super
He gets
pissed.
mad. Don't call them whales in front
Okay, I can't. I don't remember the name.
Neither do I. I don't give a fuck. Sorry.
I don't remember what the
They're
name
whales.
was.
Yes.
They're whales.
Like, okay, fine. We're just gonna say whale. I
They
don't
have
remember what the
everything.
name
They're
was.
whales.
But just how, I don't think this is giving too much away, but it was like an outcast, and
Yes.
you know what I'm
It
talking
was
about?
yes, dude. I love
Oh,
that.
it's so endearing. And then, yeah, I mean, we can't really give all that away, but I love that part. The whole whale. And
Yes, the whole whale thing. And also, okay, because I get, okay, so one thing about me, I identify with characters. Like, I legitimately, when I watch something, I go, who would I be? Right. And then would I make those decisions? So I remember when Homeboy meets the whale for the first time, I'm like, why would you go out with those motherfuckers in the first place? Like, I'm all about controlling the controllables and don't put yourself in bad situations. Like, I'm horrible at that. Like, some people think, Adrian, you're too hard on people. But I'm like,
But he's a
no,
teenager,
dude,
so.
like you why were you so damn trusting? But had he not done that, like, he wouldn't have met Whale. And
Yeah.
Whale played a big role in helping them win, right?
Yep.
But yo, you almost die. If that whale hadn't showed up, it would have been curtains, like
Yep.
such curtains. So anyway, yeah, Kev, if I know people and I don't trust them, they're like, hey, Andrew, come with us. I'm not coming. I don't care how badly I want to be friends with you. Like, no, like, because then you're gonna just like leave me out in the fucking weird ass place, and all of a sudden, like, a shark's gonna come and try to eat me. Anyway,
Yeah, but think
yeah.
about how many teens just do. They're like, they were teenagers, right? Pretty
they were
much.
totally
age-wise.
teenagers, which is
So that was
we-
very typical of them just going along with the flow and peer pressure. And
yeah, no, you're right. But even
Get
as
in
a
trouble.
kid, I didn't do that shit. Sorry, I didn't do that shit. But anyways,
enough. Yeah.
no,
think
I
we
like
covered it well.
we got passionate, like we got to like, you know, get worked up, like, so yeah, I totally. Anyway, totally weird question, but whatever, I'm gonna ask it anyway. Did you identify with anybody in the movie? Like, did you feel like that would be me?
No, I mean, I don't remember having that sort of feeling, but
That's fine. Not everyone does it.
yeah.
I do it.
Yeah.
But not everyone does it. Okay. Okay.
I mean, I think probably the moms. I mean, in
Aw.
just,
Makes
you know, protecting their kids and
Yeah.
that sort of situation. Yeah.
Sigourney.
Yeah.
I like that character. That would be me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to talk to the animals. I want to talk to everybody.
Yeah. See, I need to go back and watch the first because I need to see her more.
That was
So
a
talking
fun-
about whales, you want to talk about the other whale?
Oh my God, that's right. We almost forgot. That was a great segue, Kevin. So he's smiling. He's like, yeah, that was dope.
Okay.
Yes, let's talk about the whale.
I'm
Okay.
not even needed
But
anymore.
you
I'm
did
gonna
not
go.
see the whale.
It's
I was the only
okay.
one that saw
I
it.
haven't seen
Yeah.
it. No, but that's okay. Like it's just like, to be honest, just like to Avatar. If you talk about it and you spoil anything, number one, I probably will not remember by the time I watch the whale.
Okay.
Because again, I'm old in one ear, out the other.
I'm with
You know
you.
what, though? We're all the
I
same
hear ya.
age, man. Like, I'm just saying.
Dude, but I've been a dad for 26 years.
The
It
children
wears
really
you out,
kill
man.
you. They
Yeah.
really, really kill you.
Yeah.
Slowly.
I always said, like, I would take my age and then add my daughter's age, and that's how old I am, right? So like I'm like 80. Like
Oh, wow.
72.
Ooh.
I'm old, man. These old bones, I've seen things.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll tell you about the whale.
Yes.
So the whale I went to it not really knowing much about it. The draw for me was Brendan Fraser because I love to see a comeback, and the whole thing intrigued me. I mean, and he was so out of character. I mean, he was not the hot, I mean, things he played typically in the past. He was giant, obese, man. So I had to just see what this was all about. I went to it thinking I was going to be bawling the whole time, and it was really sad, but it was not I was not crying the whole time. I cried more at the end. But I did want to touch on something because you talked about, I remember what movie we were talking about had we said it needed a trigger warning. I think it was Velma. Needed a trigger warning. Well, this needed almost a trigger warning. First show is definitely not for kids. I don't think any kid would want to see it, but my daughter was like, "Hey, I want to go to the movies with you." And I was like, this is a little heavy. And then, there was no way I was letting her go. I knew she wouldn't like it. She just wanted to go to the movies. The first scene is him handling himself. So handling his business. So that is it was a little bit shocking and jarring to start off the movie. But so it's definitely not for kids.
There's nothing wrong with little self-care.
No, I mean,
self-love.
He needed some love. So
do what you do.
He handled it. But anyway, so really it's strange because it's not strange, it's understandable. The whole movie is pretty much in his apartment because obviously he's not leaving. So almost the whole thing is just filmed there. There's a couple scenes where they'll go to the beach or whatnot. He's having like flashbacks, but I didn't even understand like what the whale meant. I thought maybe it was because he's big, but it actually has a kind of interesting double meaning. So that's fun to kind of find out when you're watching it. And I liked that a lot. But it's really a story about how he got to this place and why he is so, overweight. And it's kind of the story between him and his daughter, who is Sadie Sink. And she is a sassy teenager, and they're kind of like estranged, but she comes back into his life. And so it's just that dynamic. And he was really, really sweet and endearing, and you just felt for him. Going through, you understand how he got to where he was. It was really hard to watch because it's, kind of sickening in a sense to see him just doing himself in sort of. But yeah, the dynamic, he really just absolutely loved his daughter, and that was really endearing. And really every character in it was good. There was a nurse who took care of him, who was kind of his best friend, and they had a history. There was an ex-wife, and then there was a boy who was kind of I don't think this is a spoiler thing. He comes to the door and he's like, not selling religion, but trying to almost save him through religion. And so there's that dynamic between them. And like really in the end, like every single character was really lonely. And it's kind of like that dynamic between all of them when you piece it together. Yeah, I know this is probably really strange and you're kind of
so this is a movie about loneliness then.
Yes, definitely loneliness, definitely. Trying to think what else I can add here, but yeah, I mean, it was good. I really liked it. It's not your typical feel good, fun, funny movie. It was heavy, but it was like a different change. I haven't seen anything like that in a while. So, it was a good addition to the movie watch.
Was it worth all the hype as far as like, do you think he deserves like all the nominations or the awards or that kind of thing?
I do think he does. I really do. I mean, that could not have been, I think number one, it's not his typical role. So it is a stretch for him. And he was good. I mean, I bought it. Like when you saw him, it was extremely realistic. There was no like thinking he was in a fat suit or anything like that. It was him. You bought the whole situation. So
Nice.
I do think he deserves it.
He just won something. It's not an Oscar.
Golden Globe or
I think it was something else.
It was after the Golden Globes. Critics' Choice Award.
Yes.
Or People's Choice Award. Somebody made a choice to give him an award. I don't remember if it was critics or people. But yeah, he just won one last week. And from everything that I have heard and I heard from you is that he's pretty well deserving. He didn't win the Golden Globe though.
There's beef between him and Golden Globe, the Foreign Press Association, because someone there actually like did something.
That's right. Like that's right. I do remember that
stuff that happened in the past.
Yes.
Yeah. I do.
That's why he didn't even show up. He boycotted it because it's like I'm not gonna. And so
that's right. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. So that's probably why Elvis won anyway. Like it was almost like, okay, well, fine, we'll just give it to Elvis then, or the actor.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely not a must watch in the theater, you know.
That's the other thing. I feel like
it can be watched at home.
Yes.
In the right mindset, you know, when you're ready to. That is what I wanted to touch on was, you know, this whole movie was kind of like, you know, yeah, it's good. It's taking you on this journey, but then the ending is like, I can't even explain it because it just hit you. It hit me in the chest. I was bawling my eyes out. It blindsided me. I don't know how to explain it. Once you see it, you might have the same emotions, but
good.
Yeah.
He's an alien.
Well, I don't want to give anything away. No.
Yeah. So I spoiled it for everybody. You're welcome.
He's all nanu, like all of a sudden, and then like an alien shows up.
Speaking of that, you know that Mork and Mindy, you know how that show ever started? No. It was a random guest spot on Happy Days. Mork showed up in Happy Days, and nobody had heard of Robin Williams at that time, and they loved him so much that they did a spinoff show based on that.
Man, the early 70s and early 80s were all about the spinoffs. I saw this like and I know we're gonna end soon because we're getting late, so it's almost 2:00 here. But like Just the 10 of Us was a spinoff of like Growing Pains, and I know that the Jeffersons was a spinoff of the All in the Family, and like Different Strokes was a spinoff of Facts of Life, I believe. Like it was all about how can we milk this, you know? So yeah, I almost missed that. I think the spinoffs was a pretty cool concept. For sure.
I can't think of too many since then. I know that Blackish has spun off a couple of shows.
I know Good Trouble is spun off on The Fosters. I don't know if you guys have seen either of those.
No, I've heard of The Fosters, but I've never watched that.
Yeah.
But Blackish, they did Youngish, and they did, I want to say there was one more that spun off of Blackish.
A Different World was a spinoff of The Cosby Show.
Mm-hmm.
What was that one? ER had the one where they went to LA or.
That reminds me also, Private Practice was a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, that's right, Grey's Anatomy. I'm saying ER, but I'm talking about Grey's Anatomy. Yeah.
Boston Legal was a spinoff of The Practice.
And Melrose Place was a spinoff of Beverly Hills 90210.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. We're embarrassing ourselves right now.
No, we're not. Embrace that shit, man. You started it with Mork and Mindy, so.
You started it when you said no. It's not my fault. I can't help what happens up here. I'm old.
We started it because you said aliens. So sorry, own that.
Yeah, we really went on this weird tangent.
No, you should have been here last week. Andy is convinced that dragons happened. Like he's like, no,
he thinks they were real.
They were real.
Because Joe Rogan said so. Yeah.
We love you, Andy. We really do. But my favorite moment was when you're like, dude, like, we know pterodactyls are out there because they had hollow bones and we found their fossils. And Andy's like, but what if like the dragon bones were like really hollow? And that's why they're gone. And I lost it. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you ever had sleep paralysis? I'm sorry, I'm being random. Have you ever had sleep paralysis before?
Sleep paralysis?
Like where you like wake up but you can't move and it feels like something's in the room?
Oh, no.
Lucky you. All right, sorry. That was random.
Doesn't
That
sound
was
good.
also last week. All right.
Oh.
For those who like listen, I threw it back to the last episode, but we're gonna come back.
But you like, what does that mean? You're kind of like sleeping, but not awake fully, so you can't move?
It's
Or are you
from
fully awake?
worse.
Yeah, from everything I have ever heard, it's like the most horrific thing
If
that
you
that,
Google
like,
it, you'll be so thankful that you never had it.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Just let me know what you think once you Google it, because I'm just it's like, because I know we're short on time, but like, yo, it is like the scariest, freakiest, fucked up shit ever. And the craziest part about it is, like, again, like, it happened to me before there was like internet, right? So then I finally was Googling around and I'm like, holy shit, other people have actually experienced this. That means like either it's a biochemical phenomenon or it's like paranormal activity. But either way, it's
Oh,
like
man.
some freaky shit. And we
But
all
that's the thing
do
too,
same
is that
thing.
like almost everybody that has it says that when they do have it, it feels like there's a presence in the room, right?
Ooh.
Whether it's sitting on your chest, whether it's across the room, whether it's whatever, it feels like there's something there that is not letting you move. That's not letting you wake up. That's not letting you know, whatever. And I'm like, that's what I said last week. I said, I believe in it. I'm not challenging. I don't need it. I don't need to be proven to me. Like
Yes,
I don't need to
exactly.
wake up with that feeling.
We don't need
You
to
guys,
manifest it.
you guys, I believe you.
Your friend,
I don't need to fuck with Annabelle. And I believe in Annabelle. She's cool. She can go murder people from her little cage or whatever. I'm not challenging Annabelle. I don't need a ghost in my house to prove to me that ghosts exist. I'll believe.
I do. I know you guys asked what I like to watch, but I do like scary, creepy
oh,
stuff too.
shit,
I like horror. And my dog, I think I didn't for a long time because, and I've heard this from a lot of moms. Like once they become moms, it's like what they can watch is like, it's too much. It becomes too much. But now that maybe my kids are not a little bit older, I'm able to handle it a little bit better. And my daughter loves horror. She does like a weekly horror critical thinking class.
Whoa.
And so every
cool.
week we watch a horror movie and she gets on her, kind of like this, but it's a class and they discuss it. So like they discuss Scream 5 today.
Nice. Yeah,
Next week is Antlers. Have you seen Antlers?
No,
but I've heard of that one.
There's all kinds of crazy, creepy stuff. I'm like, oh dear. But I've seen some good stuff from it that I would never have watched normally. So it's pretty interesting.
Funny enough, tonight I was almost going to mix that and Andrew's favorite world together. I saw something today because Event Horizon is one of my favorite.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, but Event Horizon is one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Ooh,
It's awesome. Scares
the
shit out of you.
Yes.
But I read something today that said that while that movie is fantastic, there's actually an anime from 1995 which came out beforehand called, I want to say it was called Magnetic Rose, that is the same idea. It's like gothic horror in space, and it's supposed to be better than Event Horizon. I was going to try and watch it. Apparently it's on Tubi, so you can watch it for free. It's the only place that it exists. You can't buy it on Amazon. You can't buy it on Apple TV.
Good.
Justwatch.com. It doesn't show up, but it's on Tubi.
Tubi's got everything.
So I'm gonna have to look for that and watch that. But I love horror. I've been watching a lot of horror in the last year, I think more than I ever have, and that's why Andrew and I have been going down the Conjuring universe together, because neither one of us had watched it. But we watched. We're up to The Conjuring 2.
Yes.
So we'll have to watch maybe this week. Watch whatever's next, which I think is it now Annabelle? What was one of the Annabelle ones next? I think.
Oh, in that case, it's Annabelle too. That's fine. I think it might
I
be.
didn't think so. It's a prequel. Yeah.
Oh no! I
so.
think what we just saw was a prequel. Whatever. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're watching it.
Yeah. So we'll have to do that. It seems to me there's something else on the horror side that I had to watch.
Netflix has this new
the Japanese one,
anthology that I'm going to start as well. So this is the year of horror, like 2023 for sure. So that's cool that you're into horror because this podcast has been turning into a horror podcast.
We talk about horror a lot.
Every week we talk about something. Yeah. You're going to see Megan tomorrow. So, if you're cool, maybe coming back next week, we're not sure. It's up to you, no pressure. Maybe we'll ask what you thought of Megan. But yeah, no, horror, it's back and it's really cool. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of that Japanese anime one, and it wasn't as scary as I hoped the first one would be.
Wait, what is that one called?
It's called something that Andrew's going to look up.
Oh, the pressure. Hold on.
I think it actually has Japanese in the name, doesn't it?
It does.
Daughter's probably already seen
Netflix, Japanese horror. Japanese Tale of the Macabre or Macabre. I don't know how to say that name.
Macabre.
Macabre. Okay. Japanese Tales of the Macabre. That's what it's called. Just came out.
Yeah. Yeah, they're half hours short animated in anime style. That was the thing about the Magnetic Rose, is that it's 90s anime, which for me is my favorite art style from anime. So I was really stoked about that too. This one, they're weird. Like, Japanese horror is very different than American horror. Like, if you watch even The Ring, that's why it was such a hit when it came out, because it was different horror than anybody was making, because it was based on Ringu, which was the Japanese version of it. But their horror is different. Like, they do different things. You do not get 1 minute. Oh, that son of a bitch. But yeah, so Japanese horror just in general is very different. And I think when that movie landed here, it changed horror in general for a while. But we talked about it before, how the things that scare me in horror is generally the things that you don't see and things you can't see. Like, Paranormal Activity for me is scarier than the later part of The Conjuring, because as soon as you see the ghost, as soon as it gets, like, she's getting thrown around the room and stuff, that's less realistic. But in Paranormal Activity, you never see what's happening. You never see the monster.
The unknown. I totally agree. Those things are like really freaky. Kind of like I don't know, I'm trying to think of another
there's a new
movie
one
like that, like Bird Box, where you don't really see what the thing is, or
where they're intentionally not showing you,
right.
And I think that is one of the things that made Bird Box cool. But there's a new one that's similar to Paranormal Activity. It's in the theaters right now. It's called Skinamarink.
Oh.
And it was made for $15,000, which is an insanely small budget to make anything.
Yeah.
And Andrew's back. I was just talking about how, Paranormal Activity, we talked about how it was the most profitable, like percentage-wise, the most. Well, there's a contender. So Skinamarink is out in theaters right now.
I've heard about that one.
Okay. Made for $15,000.
Same amount.
I think it may have had a smaller
box office.
No. The box office is big, millions of dollars. But
I mean, smaller than Paranormal, though. I mean, did it beat Paranormal?
I don't know how long it's been around. And to be fair, if they didn't market it, so if the marketing budget was lower, the percentage might still work out, because the marketing budget for Paranormal Activity and the reshoots for Paranormal Activity put it up into the several hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
But Skinamarink, I don't think, dealt with any of that. So it might be the 15% to whatever. So that margin is actually, when you talk about percentages, is going to be a little higher.
Oh yeah. Okay. So it's so far made 1.7 million, whereas Paranormal, I want to say, was almost 200.
It was 90. Was it 200? Did it make it up to 200 in the theaters?
Almost. Well, let me tell you. You know me. I'm all about the fucking research.
Yeah, and I think Skinamarink didn't release as large at all as Paranormal Activity did, because I don't think anybody got behind it. I think
193 million for Paranormal. So like, okay, it's still I think it's safe.
Well, but as soon as
I know the percentages, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm curious about.
The budget's you're better at math than I am. The budget's 215. So the budget was 215 total for Paranormal. So it's 215 versus 193. Skinamarink was 15. 1.7 million. So I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out later.
I think Paranormal Activity is still more profitable at this point. And I don't know that Skinamarink is going to stay in the theaters. And I think you could see it on Shudder, but I'm not sure.
Now, is Skinamarink like a Skinnamarink-a-dink-a-dink, skimmarinky-doo.
Well, it's where the name came from,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
that's what I thought. Okay.
But it's made for 15 grand. So, and the guy said that he shot it the way that he would expect an AI to shoot it. So like some scenes are really weird, some scenes are really bizarre, and shouldn't work, but they do because it's creepy as shit. But there's like a scene where it's a couple minutes of just like looking at a hallway, like so, or something weird like that. But I'm super curious about it. I just don't, it's not playing anywhere near me.
Yeah, it's on. Oh, it comes out on Shudder on February 2nd, so we got a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Away. Actually, it's next week. Shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Friday.
Maybe we'll be able to watch it in time for the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely curious about it. So I'll have to check that one out. So do you guys have anything else to throw out there, since we rambled incessantly here at the end for perhaps the magic? Go ahead.
That, Pete said he was jealous that he was not able to make it tonight, and I will say after this session, yeah, dude, you missed out. Like, this was a good show, especially towards the end. We started getting like in the flow. We found out you like horror, like great. So yeah, that's that. I know Kim, like, life stuff, so we get it. Like, just trust me. But that's okay, because that is like, again, this is me editorializing here, but that's the beauty of the APNC, baby. Like, you have no idea who's going to show up from week to week to week, so you get a different thing every time. It's kind of like, this is so nerdy, but I'll just say it. It's kind of like in a singing group where you have different lead singers. So like, if it's like that one lead singer on the song, it's a different feel than the other lead singer. So it's just kind of like, it's variety, baby. So I feel like this is variety. When it's different, when it's me, Kevin, and Andy, it's a different feel than when it's me, Kevin, and Pete. Or if it's Andy and Kevin, it's different. And when Kim's there, it's different. So, and this was a different one. So it's like, that's, I think, the mark of versatility and longevity and awesomeness. Like, we're just building something really cool for the class of 95 in the East Bay. There's something in the water. I could say more, but I'm going to like reel it in for now because I'm just going to reel it in. But dude, thank you for coming on the show and adding yet another dynamic to the chemistry that is all pop, no culture.
That's how we do.
Thank you for having me. I was definitely nervous because I find that you guys are just so good with the descriptions of things, and sometimes I get a little bit hung up in my words. But I think
watch some old ones. You'll learn from Andrew that you do not have to know anybody's name. That's totally acceptable, and you'll find that you don't have to remember anything, because I sure as shit can't.
Yeah, I mean, like you teasing yourself, you're old. I got mom brain. I'm old and tired too, and just can't get my words together sometimes. So I think it was good. I had a good time, and thank you for having me, and hopefully we will do it again.
Yeah. So yeah, you're definitely like invited back any week you want. If you're bored on a Saturday night, we are also bored on a Saturday night.
I mean, every Saturday is pretty boring.
And and I, one way or the other, an episode is getting recorded. I think we only missed 1 week last year. I think like it was pretty crazy. So and I've kind of committed to just doing the episode by myself, if that's what it comes down to get one out there. So if you want to come back, let us know. If you want to be in one of our ridiculously stupid chat circles, let us know. That comes with a
trigger
warning label like that. Yeah,
just ask him, and if just talk to Kim first.
Kim's the instigator. Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
she's the biggest troublemaker. Yeah. So, but yeah, we definitely. Anytime you want to come back on, I don't care if we end up with 6 people on. I'm okay with that. It'll be a long ass show, but I don't have a problem with that. So most of the time, to be fair, over the last year, it's usually me and Andrew, and somebody else pops in when they can. So we'll certainly make room. And then for those watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with us in this one. We went on our very usual tangents, and we had time, and I think it worked. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Share with your friends. We finally got a few people to share on Facebook. Leah shared on Facebook. Was it Stephanie shared on Facebook? So if you see it on there, share it.
And Katie, your friend.
Yes. My friend Katie. Yes, I've known Katie for 20-something years. So
I'm not even your friend. You're Kevin's friend, but I remembered you. So
you're her friend now.
And
you guys are Facebook
we both
friends
had sleep paralysis. So yeah, like pound.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
So with that, we will see you guys next week. We'll obviously talk about the 3rd episode of The Last of Us. God knows what else. And have a great week.
Okay, thank you. Bye.